Real quick, just stepping in to remind everyone that I have a movie channel. Check out my movie channel if you want. It's Jackson Kruger Movies. The link is in the description below, so if you're tired of just hearing my bad sports takes and want to also hear some bad movie takes, make sure you check that out. Again, link is in the description below. All right, let's talk linebackers here. And just to be clear, when I mean linebackers, I am not counting edge rushers who are, linebackers in a 3-4 system. I'm simply referring to guys who are off-ball linebackers. So if it's a 3-4, that's a middle linebacker, and if it's a 4-3, that's just linebackers in general. Just because, comparing some of these guys to like an edge rusher, it's weird. I don't get why the Pro Bowl still does it that way, but no, that's the position, off-ball linebacker. Let's just get into the list, starting off with number 10. This is maybe a hot take putting him on the list. I did consider someone like a Frankie Louvu or TJ Edwards, even like a Bobby Okereke, who are more of the consistent type guys, but I decided to take a bit of a gamble with my number 10 pick and getting a bit of a projection guy. Devin Lloyd has had his ups and downs, is fair to say, at the NFL level. Last year, in his first year, he started off so strong. We were already like, wow, this guy's a star. And then he just fell off a cliff. He just forgot how to play football, it seemed like. This year, while I still think you could argue that he has some room to improve in coverage, he got a lot better in coverage. And honestly, his coverage was actively good last year and was a dominant run defender on top of it. I do think you can maybe argue there's a couple guys who are just more consistent right now, but given how young Lloyd is at 25 years old, I'm going to assume just giving him another year under his belt, we can see more growth. And so because of that, I decided to put him on the list at number 10. Number 9 is Quincy Williams, who, career has not been a dominant player. He just hasn't. But last year, I don't know, something just clicked where coverage-wise, he was just consistently in the right place and making things happen. I still don't think he's a dominant run defender, but he's someone he was PFF's second highest graded coverage linebacker last year. And I watched way too much Jets film before being honest. He was consistently in the right spot and was a very valuable piece for that unit. So yeah, it's a one-year wonder. Can't put him too much higher, but I am going to put him at 9. And number 8, I'm actually sticking with the Jets. I'm going with C.J. Mosley, who, again, was really good in coverage. He was PFF's number 1 highest graded coverage linebacker last year. Both these linebackers were consistently where they needed to be. Mosley a better run defender, although still not spectacular. And, obviously had to struggle staying healthy since signing that big deal with the Jets. But he has had good years in the past, going back to his Baltimore Ravens days. So, really good coverage linebacker tandem there with Mosley and Williams. And going from one former Raven to another former Raven, I'm going Patrick Queen at number 7. Apparently, I'm just the one Patrick Queen stan, I guess. I don't know. I think he's really good. I think he's consistently gotten better, and I see no reason to believe he won't continue to get better. Kind of had to do a lot for the Ravens. He was covering guys one-on-one. He was blitzing. He was, having to, have tough assignments in the run defense game at time and being able to handle it all. I actually think when he goes to Pittsburgh, I could see him having an even better year when they just don't rely on their linebackers as much. I think that's possible. So it's possible I'm wrong because everyone else seems to think that Patrick Queen's a good player, not an elite one. And I'm not saying he's quite elite, but he's certainly just on the borderline. And by the way, 24 years old, only 24 years old. So, plenty of room for him to continue to improve and get better. I have him at number 7. Number 6 is Matt Milano, who would be higher on this list if he wasn't coming off of an injury. That's always going to dock you a couple of points. It just is. But yeah, again, one of the kind of elite coverage players. I do think that Bills defense missed him severely, and getting him back, we talk about all the players the Bills lost. Getting Milano back could go a long way. So, as long as he can play like how he played before the injury, I expect him to be, potentially higher on this list than he is right now. Number 5 is Bobby Wagner, who PFF loves. 2 years ago, they had him at the number 1 linebacker. Last year, he was 7th highest linebacker, and it makes sense. He's consistently in the right position, doing the right things. not quite the athlete he once was. It is what it is, but he's still playing at a pretty high level. I do think it's fair to say he's lost a step, but even in losing a step, that's still a top 5 linebacker, given what he used to be. Has now signed a deal with the Washington Commanders, seemingly as a kind of a weird choice by him, I suppose, but maybe he just wanted the payday. Didn't get paid a ton either, so it's kind of weird. I'm assuming people just aren't too into signing a guy who's about to be 34, but hey, he's really good, so he's number 5 on my list. Number 4, maybe this is still a homer take, I don't know, but I'm still going to put Lavonte David this high on my list. Again, I'm a Tampa Bay fan. I'm not going to not put Lavonte David high on my list, but I don't know. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, he's a guy, complete do-it-all type guy. There is no weakness in his game the way other guys you could say, well, this is their strength, this is their weakness. Lavonte David does everything, and let's just be honest, has had to do a lot with sometimes the guys around him. I mean, he was playing next to Devin White the past couple years, who, let's just be honest, will abandon his assignments. He will put Lavonte David in some tough spots. He did, and David was able to usually pass with flying colors. He does so much for this team. Another guy, totally fair to say he's lost a step. It just is, and again, 34 years old, so that's what's expected at this point. But even in maybe taking a step back, is still a dominant player, and I still put him at 4. Yes, maybe it's a bit of a homer take, but I don't care. I want to, I think it's fair. I think he's really good. And you know what? He's been underrated for so long throughout his career. I can overrate him on a list or two. Right? Why not? Number 3, I went with Roquan Smith. I'll bring up PFF grades just because that's kind of a fun thing to do. It's a stat to use. He's never been the best in terms of PFF grades, which kind of makes sense. He's certainly a home run hitter, so the consistency stats aren't going to be as dominant for him, but the highlights are always unreal. And since going to the Ravens, it's just a match made in heaven. I think it was fair to criticize him with the Bears. I think that him kind of being in more of a sit-back zone coverage defense wasn't really the right spot for him. And going over to the Ravens has really been the best thing to happen to him. He's really been fantastic there. So, yeah, he's number 3 on my list. Number 2, I decided to go with Demario Davis. Demario Davis, someone who just never gets the credit he deserves, is another guy who's he's constantly in the right position to make plays, consistently. He's always doing the right thing. He helps the unit around him out a lot, and he just never really got the credit he deserved because you're playing with so many other great linebackers. But he is someone who, since joining the Saints, has been one of the best in football. Another guy who's 35, but unlike David and Widener, who we've kind of seen their play dip a little bit, we haven't seen that from Demario Davis at all. So how can I not put him at number 2 on the list? I think that's fair. But number 1 is it's just annually, I think this is the 4th year in a row, I've put Fred Warner at number 1. I mean, he deserves it. Again, it's not just what he does in the coverage, which is in terms of zone coverage, no doubt about it, he's the best in football. You could argue, are there better one-on-one guys? Is Lavonte David better one-on-one? Even that's just an argument. I think you could argue Warner is the best at that as well. Coverage is unreal. His run defense is unreal. And his leadership, his helping guys out. I constantly see him when I'm watching film, say, hey, get this guy over there. He's controlling that unit. The 49ers would not be the same without Fred Warner. They just wouldn't. So he's kind of, to me, an obvious number 1, as he's been an obvious number 1 for years now. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.